Hey, good evening, family. How's everybody doing today? This is a beautiful day today. Well, welcome to Faith and Finance Tuesday, a segment of the core where we're built from the inside out. And I'm your host, Pastor Marwin Adair. And I want to thank you for joining me once again. Hey, if this is your first time with me, welcome. And if this has been, you've been with me since episode 1, hey, thank you for being a part of this journey so far. Hey, I was just sitting here thinking about, man, we say episode 4, that means 4 weeks, right? So it's time is flying, So 4 weeks ago since we did the first episode here. So hey, before we get started, do me a favor. If you find the lessons to be a blessing, subscribe to the page, like the videos, and turn on your notification bell so you'll never miss another episode. All right? Well, let's go ahead and get right on in. Get my water here. So, last week, hey, I want to welcome Pam. Pam, first time. Thank you for joining us, cousin. That's my cousin, y'all. Thank you for joining. Hey, so listen, we're going to start with what I believe, we was talking about personal growth, right? And last week we got over about 3 things we talked about. We talked about, personal growth, the foundation of financial success. And I wanted to share with everybody how important that is to grow personally, to develop yourself before that you can really start developing your finances. I was just sharing with someone earlier today. We was talking about capacity, and I think it was number 3 of last week. The law of the lid, and I was really thinking about that over the weekend, and since last week. You can only fill yourself up, and I really believe that's what finances too, as far as your capacity will allow you. If you got a small capacity, then everything else I believe is kind of going to be small in your life. So we're talking about, financial success, right? And I made that statement where your financial success will rarely exceed your personal growth. So that's that capacity that we talk about. And I also said before God can change your finances, what do we have to change? He often have to change you. He have to change us first, right? So last week we covered 3 important principles, and number 1, your thinking determines your direction. We talked about that. We looked at Romans 12:2, and we learned that transformation begins with the renewing of the mind. And if you change your thinking, then your finances will soonly follow behind you, right? So I think a lot of times we got just the way we think about money, the attitude we have towards money is when we put that lid on it or that cap on it, so you have to be able to renew your mind and change the way you think about money. I remember coming up and, you see people do this. I remember just grabbing money, you go to the store and they give you your change back, or you go somewhere and somebody gives you some money, you just grab it, ball it up, and stick it in your pocket. I remember doing this when I was probably in my 20s. I forgot where I was at, and a lady told me, she said, you should never do that. And I'm like, why? She said, because you got to learn how to respect your money. And she said, you should, take your money, fold it up neatly, and, put it in your wallet or whatever, how you have it. And so because it's the mindset, and that's what I've learned what she was telling me years later, that how you think about money, right, is basically how money you're going to have money in your life, right? So if it's disrespectful, if you don't think about it much, or you got a bad mindset about money, you're really not going to have too much. People sometimes say that they don't need money, or it's not about money. Well, the Bible says that money is answereth all things. So if God talked about money more than he talked about just about anything else in the Bible, God obviously wants us to have money in our lives, but he wants us to have the character and the right attitude to go with that money, right? And then number two, we talked about personal growth and how personal growth increased your value. We talked about Jim Rohn, how he made that statement when he said, we don't get paid for time, we get paid for the value we bring to the marketplace, right? We looked at Proverbs 22 and 29, and we looked at that in the Message Bible. We talked about how I observe people who are good at their work, how people that get good at their work are observed. And skilled workers are always in demand. So when you work on your craft, when you work on your skills, when you work on yourself, you're going to always bring some type of value to the table. And value, the way you value yourself is more, basically more, have the more value than the money, because money going to come. When you have value, when you can do different things in your life. So we talked about that, and we learned that one of the greatest investments is where? One of the greatest investments you can make. Who want to answer that? Just type it in the chat if you remember. One of the greatest investments you can make. I'll give you a few seconds. Yeah, one of the greatest investments you can make. Warren Buffett. The quote from Warren Buffett. He said one of the greatest investments that you can make is in yourself. Investing in yourself. Investing in yourself. And I think that comes a part of, of really realizing your value, right? What is my value? What do I want to do? What am I bringing to the table? So I see some of you all remember that, investing in yourself. And that's what we have to do. We have to learn how to invest in ourselves, read books, YouTube tutorials, and just learning new skills. I was talking to somebody earlier today. They was in their 60s, and they was telling me how they want to learn how to use the computer. That's adding value, and they're learning skills. So the more that you can keep learning, the better you can be. I was at a networking meeting today, and the guy there, he's in his late 80s, but he's sitting there and he's still learning, and that's what we're supposed to do. So number three, your capacity determines your increase. And that's what I said. We talked about the law of the lid last week. And I said that God can pour only into the capacity we are developed. That's it. What's the scripture? You can't put new wine into old wineskin. Why? Because it's going to burst. It couldn't hold it couldn't hold it. It didn't have the capacity to hold it. And when you look at money, it's the same way. I tell you, and I think I asked this question last week. If I gave you $10 million, how long would it take before you be broke? I might have said it a different way. Or no, I said if you had $10 million, will that $10 million last you for the rest of your life? Or would it be gone in 12 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years? I shared a couple of weeks ago about statistics that was out about football players, NFL football players, that there was a high percentage of them that once they retired in 12 years, they was broke again, So you gotta be able to add value to yourself. You got to be able to have that, that capacity to hold what we're learning. So this is why I wanted to start here, because from this point on, everything we start talking about, it has information that can help you increase, help you become better. But if you don't take it in and you don't let it expand your capacity, when the money do come, it's gonna leave, And I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but as I was preparing for this, I said something, and I thought about something. When I was doing this, and we're talking about capacity. That sometimes people, because of their capacity, let me say it that, they have the ability to get money They know how to make money, but they don't know how to retain it. So it's a revolving door of, it just comes in, and as soon as it comes in, it goes right back out. We've heard that term where it says it's burning a hole in your pocket. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to capacity. Jesus said this in Luke 16, if you're faithful over little, then you'll be faithful over much. So before God can increase your resources, he got to increase your capacity, right? He has to increase your capacity. And this is what this is all about, increasing our capacity. So from here on, when we start talking about financial growth, getting out of debt, learning where to invest your money, or learning about different life insurance policies and how they operate, and what, the money markets and stuff like that, we start understanding, and we start being able to expand our capacity. That's what I was going to say. And this is what I was thinking about. A lot of times we think it takes a lot of money to make money. And the reality and the truth is that it really doesn't take a lot of money to make money. What it takes is for you to have knowledge, right? That's expanding your capacity. Having some knowledge, having some consistency in your life, and having some discipline in your life. Because you can take a little and you can turn that little into much, right? So when your capacity, and that's what I'm talking about, is the knowledge and the wisdom that you have about finances, and it can go in any area of your life. You cannot outgrow your capacity. Whatever it is, that's where you're going to stop at. Whatever your lid is at, that's only how far you're going to go. And so what are we doing? We're trying to expand our capacity so that we can begin to increase, and we can take this knowledge and this wisdom that we're going to be blessed with over these series and lessons and episodes, and we can take it and we can all become better, right? So it's that capacity, it's that mindset, it's where, what are you willing to do for yourself, investing in yourself to learn more so that you can expand your capacity, right? So tonight we're going to talk about why success isn't magic, and why principle matters, and why legacy matters. And I wanted to leave you with one final principle that ties everything together. So we're going to dive right on in, and if you're taking notes from last week, we went to point 1, 2, and 3. Today we're starting off with point 4. And point 4 is success is predictable. Success is predictable because principles produces results. Success is predictable because principles produces results. Now let me ask you a question. Have you ever looked at someone who is successful? Have you ever looked at someone who's successful? And maybe they are financially successful. Maybe they are spiritually mature, or maybe they running a successful business. They can be leading a great organization. And you thought to yourself, have you ever thought this to yourself? Man, they just got lucky. They just lucky. And I can tell you something tonight. I don't think success has anything to do with luck. I don't think it has anything to do. There's no magic potions or anything like that you can take to make you success. I believe success is predictable, not because life is always fair. Not because every one is smart, or because everyone starts from the same place, and we know that's not true. But because principles are predictable. Principles are predictable. And we're getting into principles. But there are things that are said in the Word of God. We see it all the time. If ye. And what is God saying? If you apply this principle, then you're going to have success. So when you consistently apply good principles over a long period of time, you greatly increase your chances of success. When you apply good principles, when you apply those principles over a long period of time, you're gonna increase or greatly increase your chances of success. You know, we've been on this Honor God with Your Body challenge. Those who've been participating, if you've been doing your due diligence, you seeing results. And it was predictable that things are going to happen because of the principles that you apply to your life. You know, that's true. It's true spiritually. It's true financially. It's true in your marriages. It's true with your health, right? It's true with leadership. Success isn't one big decision. Success is the thousands of small decisions made consistently over time. And that's why I love studying successful people, looking at them. You know, I've been listening to Jim Ron, and I've been listening to Warren Buffett and Myron Golden and John Maxwell, you know, looking at people that's in my own office ahead of me, listening to them, paying attention. You know, even when I go to the gym working out, people who looks like they know what they're doing, I'm kind of sitting back in the cut paying attention because they have gotten the results that I'm looking to get. So I like studying people who have built something meaningful, because one thing that I've learned is successful people, they not perfect, but they tend to practice the right principles consistently. You might want to write that down. They're not perfect, but they tend to practice the right principles. And here's the magic word. I'm not saying it's magic, but consistently. Consistently. They're consistently reading. They're learning. They're consistently saving. They're consistently investing. They're making plans. They make sure that they keep growing. You know, and over time, those small decisions produces some great big results. You know, Pastor A.T., he's on here. He's a witness. I'm a witness. We wake up on this weight loss journey. We wake up every morning. It's not a perfect day. We slip up sometimes, maybe get too much sodium. Maybe you eat the wrong food. But if you continue to do the right things, right? If you continue to do the right thing, if you start putting up some finances here and there and you stay consistent with it, you're going to get results. You're going to produce some results. Now, here's one of the things that I like. Long before Jim Ron and Warren Buffett, before John Maxwell ever came on the scene, God was already teaching this principle. Listen to what the Bible says in Galatians 6 and 7. Listen to this. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever man, look what he's saying, for whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. That shall he also reap. So that is the law of cause and effect. Whatever you plant, eventually, you'll see the harvest. You'll see the harvest. One of the things I came up and I shared this with the church a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks ago. I was doing some things working, and I said to myself, run the system long enough for the harvest to show up. You know, and what was I saying? Just keep doing what you know to do. Keep doing the principles. Because if you keep doing the principles long enough, that harvest is going to come show up. Why? Because of the law of cause and effect. So everything that we learn, if you keep practicing in it, if you keep doing it, this tonight is probably one of the most important principles right now, today, self-development. If I'm going to be successful financially, I got to expand myself. You know, so you got to continue to do the things you know to do, because the cause and effect. If you sow, you're going to reap. You put a seed in the ground, it's going to grow. You'll see a harvest. If you plant discipline, you eventually harvest stability. If you plant wisdom, you eventually harvest better decision making. If you plant learning, you're going to eventually harvest greater opportunities. Greater opportunities. If you plant generosity, you're going to eventually probably harvest influence. You know, if you plant consistency, you're going to eventually harvest growth. So harvest isn't magical. It's something that has to happen in our lives. So I want everybody that's on here to look at yourself where you are today, and once you start putting these principles in that we're going to be learning for whenever we stop learning. I don't even know how long we're going to be learning, but you start putting these principles to work, you will receive a harvest. You will receive a harvest, and all you got to do is put a seed in the ground, because the harvest follows the seed. And that's why I tell people all the time, don't become obsessed with the harvest. Everybody wants the harvest. Everybody want the quick rich, get rich thing. They want to make it happen super fast. They want the harvest. But don't nobody want to put the seed in the ground. Don't nobody want to put the work in. Don't nobody want to do the consistency or the actions that need to be taken to receive the harvest. Or don't nobody want to put in the work to consistently pick up a book and read it. Read the Bible. Read what God says. Pick up other books about people who's been successful in their marriage, and with their family, with their finances. So don't become obsessed with the harvest. Become committed to planting the right seed. Become committed to planting the right seed. Because every day you're planting something. So the books you read, the conversations you have, the habits you practice, the people you surround yourself with, those things are all seeds, right? And one day they're going to produce a harvest. You know, we heard of the saying, birds of a feather flock together. That's a seed, because you planting seeds in your life. You know, so whatever you're doing, it's a seed, and it's going to produce a harvest. You got bad thinking. What is that? A seed, and it's going to produce a harvest. If you're always going around saying things like, I never will have, or I'm always broke, or I take 2 steps forward, 5 steps back, you're going to receive the harvest of what you say. So listen to Proverbs here, 21:5. It says, for the thought of the diligent tends only to plenteous, but of everyone that is haste, only to want. Listen to what God is telling us. The thoughts of the diligent tends only to plenteous. You're going to receive a harvest. But everyone that is haste, trying to get it fast, it's only going to lead to one. You know, there's nothing wrong with growing slow. You know, I think it's better to grow slow and steady, you know, than trying to grow fast. Here, I'll go back to weight loss, and I'm going to probably talk about it a lot tonight, because I've been learning so much from weight, the way I'm losing my weight this time, is that I chose to do it a different way than just saying, okay, I'm going to fast for 30 days and 30 nights. You know, I'm going to just eat, you know, certain like fruits and vegetables, and I ain't going to eat nothing else, or I'm going to drink smoothies. I wanted to continue to eat regular foods. I wanted to continue to eat the way I was eating, but I wanted to create better habits on what I was eating. You know, so instead of saying I'm going vegan, because there's some people that's vegan and they're eating bad, I wanted to find out what did my body need, so that I can make it, so I can get, so I can give it what it needs, put it in a position to grow, to heal, to lose weight. And so that's what I did. That's what I did. But I remember those times where I said, oh, I'm gonna lose 40 pounds in 1 month. I did it, but I picked it right back up and more. Right? So when we look at the scriptures, I want you to notice that the diligent, it's not the lucky. right? He said the diligent, not the lucky, not the gifted, not the connected, but the diligent. People who consistently apply wise principles. People who stay committed even when they don't see immediate results, right? Listen, people who understand that success is built one decision at a time. Now, this is what I believe is one of the greatest mistakes people make. The overnight success. I want to be successful overnight. I used to tell the church that I had, this vision when I first became a pastor. I had a 5-year vision, man. I was gonna go in there. I went to Bible school. I knew what I was talking about, and I was gonna turn that church around in 5 years. And if I didn't turn it around in 5 years, I was out the door. And I've been there 15 years, 17 years probably. Now I don't even remember, but I went past the 5. And when that 5 years came, I was ready to go, but God was like, "No, I still got to teach you some things. I still got to teach you some things." And so a lot of times we want things to grow. We want to get out of debt super fast. And I think that's what get a lot of people caught up. Now listen to me, because I'm not saying that this is not true, because maybe it had happened in some people's lives. But this is why some people get caught up. And when they go into churches, and some of these people, they teaching or preaching and talking about God said, bring $200-$300 up here and he gonna wipe your debt out. Because they're looking for the overnight success. That's why some people get, and we don't even have to talk about church. But I'm just using that because it's true, it happens. People get caught up in their emotions. They want something quick. They want the easy way out. They get caught up. Somebody come and say, "Man, if you invest $100, you can turn this $100 into $1 million if you invest it." And because people are looking for things quick, they're looking for overnight success. Their emotions lead them to the things that's actually going to destroy them. But what it says, those who are leading by haste has want. You have one. So that everybody that's want to do it fast always end up still wanting, having that desire. Now, I'm not saying that miracles can't happen, because miracles can happen. We've seen people, they win the lottery overnight. And you probably take a statistics and look at some of those people, they probably broke again. So they want overnight success. And we gotta learn how to say, I'm gonna do the necessary work to get to where I want to go. And understand that without daily discipline, you only want the harvest. Without daily discipline, you only gonna want the harvest. Just without planting the seed. That's what people want. They want the harvest, but they don't want to do the work. They don't want to plant the seed, but they want the wealth. See, they don't want to develop wisdom, but they want influence. So without increase, how do I want to say it? They without the increase, there is no value. Without putting in the work, without the study time, there's no putting in the value. But most people still want the promotions. See, without increasing their capacity, they still want God to bless them, right? They want God to open up the windows and pour out a blessing that I don't have enough room to receive it all. Many of us can't receive what God has blessed us with. We're not good stewards. So listen to what God says. He said that's not how his kingdom works. God said his kingdom, the seed comes before the harvest. The preparation comes before the promotion. God said that the process comes before the promise. And the good news is because if success was magical, none of us could reproduce it. You hear what I'm saying? If success was truly magical, if something happened, you wouldn't be able to reproduce it because basically it was luck. And we're not trying to live by luck. We're living by principles, right? Then every one of us can begin to apply those principles today. That means no matter where you start, you can begin reading, you can begin saving, you can begin budgeting, you can begin investing, you can begin praying, you can begin learning, you can begin growing, and every one of those decisions is a seed. And over time, those seeds produces a harvest. And that's why I believe financial success isn't built on luck. It's built on learning. It's built on discipline. It's built on consistency and stewardship. It's applying the principles over time. You know, so let me ask you this. What seed are you planting today? What seed are you planting today that your future self will thank you for tomorrow? What seed are you planting today that your future self will thank you for tomorrow? And that's one of the things that I try to teach people, you know, especially younger people. If you apply principles now, when you get older, your older self going to always look back and thank the younger self. Going to always thank the younger self. So remember this, that success is predictable because principles produces predictable future. Or let me say it this way, results. Success is predictable because principle produces predictable results. So now let's look at point 5. Let's look at point 5. So we learned that personal growth increases our value. We learned that capacity determines our increase, that success is predictable because principles produces results. So let's look closely with what I believe is the ultimate goal of all of this. Well, it's one of the ultimate goals. So understand that personal growth isn't about making more money. It's about building something that outlives you. It's building something that outlives you. So point 5, personal growth changes what you build. Personal growth changes what you build. As we get ready to get into this, I want to don't want to share it now. Nah, we'll share it later. So we talk about renewing your mind and increasing your value, expanding your capacity, right? Living by the principles. None of those things are going to make you more money. They're about building something bigger than yourself. So personal growth isn't just about increasing your income. It's about changing what you build with your life. And one of the statistics I shared recently that caught my attention, you all remember when I shared that the African Americans have approximately $2.1 trillion in buying power? Do y'all remember that? When I said African Americans, listen to how much money of buying power African Americans that they saying, and I think it was 2025 reported, African Americans have approximately $2.1 trillion in buying power. And that means we have tremendous economic influence as consumers. We have, hey, they know we some good consumers. $2.1 trillion, give me that. You know, that's what a lot of them saying. Give me that. Let's go put up, what do they want? They want liquor. Let's go put up as many liquor stores as we can. Let's put up many rice houses, you know, Chinese restaurants. Oh, they like buying Jordans. We're going to make sure we put a price tag on that. Because they know we got $2.1 trillion buying power. But here the real question is, what are we building with that money? And I'm not asking to criticize anybody. I'm asking because it's a question every one of us should ask ourselves. How much are we saving? How much are we investing? How much are we putting back into our community? How much are we teaching our children? How much are we preparing for retirement? And I tell y'all all the time, because I'm getting closer and closer, and I don't plan on retiring. But I can only imagine, man, if I was to retire at 65, and let's say you can plan something, but something can come into your life and happen, and derail your plans. Then what? So how much are we preparing ourselves for the future? How much are we leaving to the next generation? See, because here's what buying power tells us. It tells us what we can spend. But personal growth determines what we build. And I believe God wants us to become better builders. In our community, building stronger family. Building stronger businesses. Builders of stronger churches in our community. Just build a strong community. Build generational wealth. Builders of a legacy that honor God. Now, Proverbs 13:22 tells us a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Now, notice what Solomon he didn't say. He didn't say a rich man leaves an inheritance, did he? But he said a good man. And why did he say that? Because this isn't just about money. It's about your character. It's about your stewardship. It's about thinking beyond yourself. It's about saying, I'm not just living for today. You hear that a lot. I'm just living for today. I'm preparing something for tomorrow. And can I be honest with you tonight? That's one of the reasons why I continue to grow. That's one of the reasons why I continue to read and I'm learning about, finances. And I tell people this that's in their 50s and in their 60s and in their 70s. They don't want to come on and learn and stuff. And they be like, oh, it's too late for me. It's too late for me. Let me tell you something. It's never too late. I don't care if you're in your 80s. Because one of the things where we change our generation and what we leave behind starts with conversation. It just starts with a conversation. And so when you develop in yourself, you can start teaching your children, your children's children, your great-great-grandchildren. You can start pouring into them to where maybe you didn't become wealthy. But because of the wealth of knowledge that you have learned and you continue to develop yourself, guess what? You start leaving things back and they start picking up on it. They seeing what Papa know. They seeing what Granny know. They seeing what Daddy and Mama know. They seeing what their uncles know. And when we develop ourselves, we can leave something. Because I believe all of us don't want our children to have to start where we started. I want my children to begin where I finished. My grandchildren, and I try to pour into my children right now every time I'm learning something new. Even though they're in their 30s, I'm trying to share it with them. Because I want the next generation to have more wisdom. Because with more wisdom becomes more opportunity. More understanding, more financial knowledge, and more spiritual maturity. See, more tools, they have more tools than what we had. And I'm talking to those that's in their 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, and because that's what legacy is. Legacy is making someone else a starting point higher because of how you lived your life. It's not where, and I hate to, no, I don't. I finna sit up there and say I hate to talk about our culture, but it is what it is. A lot of us have learned status quo behavior. We've learned not how to be excellent. We learned how to deal with struggle. We learned how to rob Peter to pay Paul. And I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to talk about that in point 6. But this is exactly what Jesus did for us, right? This is what Jesus did for us. He gave us an inheritance. Jesus gave us hope. He gave us salvation. And he gave us his word, right? And not only did he give us his word, he said, wait a minute, I need to go one step further. And I need to give you my spirit. And he didn't just think about himself. He was thinking about the generations that would come after him. And if we're going to follow Jesus' pattern, we ought to live that same way and think about not just thinking about ourselves, but thinking beyond ourselves. Not just building for ourselves, but building beyond ourselves. Preparing beyond ourselves. Because one day, someone else will benefit off of our decisions that we're making today. Some of us is going to, our kids, whatever we're leaving and showing them, or they're going to show their kids and they're going to show their kids. But ask you the question, let me ask you this. When your life is over, what will still be standing? When you gone off this earth, what will still be standing? Because you was here. What type of impact would you leave with your family that your family was, because of who your family have become, because of what you did and what you showed, what would you be leaving? Will it be a stronger marriages? Will it be children who understand stewardship? Or grandchildren that know how to invest? Will you be leaving a business or a ministry? Will it be a legacy of faith? Or will it just simply be memories? That's it. Simply, just nothing but, I remember Papa Moore when we used to do this, and I remember Papa. You know what I'm saying? I remember my daddy. And a lot of us, when we speak about those that left before us or that's gone on, how do we talk about them? We talk about them in memories. Some of us can say, yeah, my like I said, I can look at some things and say, yeah, my grandfather did leave a legacy of some good, what it takes to be a man. He did teach me that. My dad left some good qualities. But something that's physical and tangible, well, I can say my grandfather did, because my grandfather left me the church, my grandfather left me the barbershop. But he left a legacy, and today we still call it Clayton's Barbershop, and we'll never change that name. Because he was thinking about doing something beyond himself. But how many people do we think about, and we think about them in memories instead of the impact that they left on us? Now, I don't know about y'all, right? But I want my life to be built something that outlives me. I want to build something that outlives me. I want to leave something where people still talking about who I am 15, 20, 30 years after I'm gone. And I believe that's what personal growth does. it changes what you build, right? Now let's get into point 6 because uh, point 6 is build a legacy of wisdom, right? And not a legacy of debt, right? And so as we getting ready to wrap this up, I want to leave you with this final thought. So let me ask you another personal question tonight. What are you passing down? Now think about it for just a moment. Because whether you realize it or not, every family passed something down. Some family passed down faith, some down work ethics. Some families are passing down businesses. Some are passing down real estate. Some are passing down family traditions. Some are passing down wealth. And unfortunately, some families pass down debt. They pass down fear. Or here's one that I think we see way too much. They pass down poor financial habits. You know, some are passing down bad information. Some pass down the belief that they'll always struggle because that's just the way our family has always lived. You know. And here's the thing for a church, because we always talk about struggle. I think we talk about struggle more than we talk about prospering. And we done got so good at talking about struggle and telling people to hold on and telling people, you know, God gonna bring you through this. Well, they say the trouble don't last always. Weeping, we talk about this Sunday. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. But I think we got into that mode of struggling, and that's what we pass down. We pass it down, fear. We pass it down. You know, I was at the barbershop, and the guy, he came in. He said, "Hey, Marvin, you still with New York Life?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm still with New York Life." And he was like, "Man, so I heard about, you know, I think he was asking me about a whole life policy or something, how that you can do cash value from it, whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, man, that's true." And this and you know, this how it works. And I went on here to explain to him, and I told him, I said, "Man, if you took, I think the number may have been like $200 or $300 a month, or $500. It was something, or it could have been $1,000 a month for 10 years. I don't remember what it was, or 800. That's what it was. It was $833 a month. I said, man, if you do that for 10 years, and you do that for your grandson or your granddaughter, I said, man, and when they turn 35, 40, and they gonna have well over a couple 100,000, you know, that they have a way better start than you." And I said, by the time they get ready to pass away, man, they gonna leave their family with millions. And the words that came out of his mouth was, "Man, that ain't for us. You know, you got to have some money to do that." And I like, dude, you blow $800 a month. You eating at fast food restaurants, $800 a month. You know, but we pass that stuff down, and we keep telling ourselves, you know, you're not, that's not supposed to be your life. You're not supposed to be wealthy, and we pass that down to our children. You're not supposed to be successful. You gotta struggle in life. And I'm not saying that struggle don't come along with things, because we know there's a process, and we know the process can be hard. But still, it shouldn't be where your whole life was a life of struggle. You know, there should be a point of time where we begin, because of the discipline and working the principles, we should produce harvests, right? So let me tell you this. Just because you've been in a family for generations doesn't mean it has to continue that same negative generational thought pattern. You can be in a family that never really had anything, and that does not mean that you do not have to have anything. You can be in a family who may not been financially savvy, but that does not mean you have to be, unfinancially savage, because somebody has to become the cycle breaker. Somebody got to become the cycle breaker, and so maybe that's why you're watching tonight. Maybe God has called you to become the person who changed the direction of your family tree. So one of the biggest myths I hear all the time is Pastor, it takes money. That's what I was talking about earlier. I hear this all the time. Pastor, it takes money to make money. Now there's some truth to that in certain situations, but I don't believe that's where wealth begins. I believe that wealth begins with knowledge, discipline, consistency, and wise stewardship. Now think about that. Because if money alone created wealth, then nobody who inherited millions would ever lose it. See, professional athletes wouldn't go broke. Movie stars wouldn't file bankruptcy. Look at the president of the United States. It's facts that he filed bankruptcy many a times. Look at the lottery winners. If that's what it was about, lottery winners would stay wealthy for the rest of their lives. But we've seen that's not true. We've seen it's not true. And we have to ask ourselves why. Because money without wisdom doesn't stay very long. Money is a tool. Write that down. Money is a tool. But wisdom teaches you how to use the tool. Money is a tool. But wisdom going to teach you how to use the tool. That discipline is going to help you keep that tool. So the more you can discipline yourself, the more you're going to be able to hold what God is giving you. And consistency is going to help the tool grow. Help the tool grow. Hey, Devontae, I see Devontae has joined us. What's up, brother? How you doing? Good to see you on, brother. So that's one of the reasons why, let me get back to this. That's why I think God doesn't start start talking about money with us first. He starts by talking about wisdom with us. He talks wisdom. Hosea 4:6. What did it say? My people are destroyed. My people are destroyed. Why? For a lack of knowledge. He said, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Now I want you to notice something. God didn't say my people are destroyed because they don't have enough money. He didn't say that. He didn't say my people are destroyed because they don't have the resources. He said my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Right? So that verse should change the way you think. Because if a lack of knowledge can destroy us, then imagine what gaining knowledge can begin to rebuild or build in us. And that's one of the reasons why you have to love learning. You have to want to read. You got to want to listen to podcasts. You got to want to study people like Warren Buffett and John Ron and Myron Golden and people who's successful in those areas. If you want to be financially successful, the best thing I can tell you to do is look at people that's financially successful. And that's why I continue learning in the financial industry. I tell you, my job now, current job, is probably one of the best decisions I made in my life. I wish I would have did it when I was younger, but it ain't too late. It's never too late to learn. And what I'm learning, I really try to soak in as much as I can. Again, not just for me, but so I can pass it down. So I can help the generations that are behind me, be successful, live on another level that we didn't get to live on. Because that's what wisdom is supposed to be. That's the way wisdom is supposed to what we're supposed to do with wisdom. We're supposed to pass it down. So every time you learn something new, you change the way you think. You change decisions. Every time you change something, you do something, you should be willing to pass that down. Now listen to this scripture, Proverbs 24:3-4. It says, "Through wisdom is a house built, and by understanding it is established, and by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with precious and pleasant riches." Listen to that. Wisdom and understanding and knowledge. There's the pattern right there. Get wisdom, get understanding, and knowledge. And what we teach is knowledge is just not learning, but knowledge is applied wisdom or applied. It's when you apply what you're learning. And by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with precious and pleasant riches. So catch the order. God didn't say rich first. God said wisdom, then he said understanding, then he said knowledge. And then the house is filled with precious and pleasant riches. And that's the way, that's God's order. Wisdom comes before wealth. Character comes before increase. Stewardship comes before abundance. And I think that's where we've been missing in our culture. We spend so much time chasing money when we should have been chasing wisdom. And when wisdom show up, better decisions follow. When better decisions follow, better habits begin to form. And when better habits begin to form, our future begins to change, I believe. Hey, let me tell you something. That Faith and Finance Tuesday is so important to me. Because I'm not just trying to help people make money. I'm trying to help people think differently about money. And I'm trying to help families break cycles and help parents teach their children, something that we were never taught. I'm trying to help grandparents leave more than just memories. I'm trying to help people build a financial legacy that actually honors God. Because somebody has to become the first investor. Somebody has to become the first homeowner. Somebody got to be the first entrepreneur. Somebody has to be that first person in the family who says, it stops with me. No more living paycheck to paycheck because nobody taught us. No more believing we can't build wealth. No more believing financial success is only for somebody else. You got to begin to say, this thing stops with me. And here's what I want you to remember as we close tonight. If we change our thinking, we'll change our decisions. And if we change our decisions, we'll change our habits. And if we change our habits, we'll change our future. And if we change our future, guess what happens? You change your family tree. You change your family tree. Now that's and that's my prayer for everybody tonight. Those who's on live, those who watch the replay or whatever, that's my prayer. That you won't simply leave your children an inheritance of finances, but you'll leave them some wisdom. You're gonna leave them discipline, and you'll leave them some faith, and we'll leave our children some knowledge. Yeah, leave them some knowledge. Because we can leave them the money, but that money gonna be spent. It might do more harm than it will help. But if we pass down wisdom from generation to the next generation, then we're building a legacy in our family that can last forever. That'll last forever. So family, I pray that this lesson encouraged you as much as it encourages me. While I was preparing this, over the last 2 weeks, we learned that financial success isn't just about making more money. It's about becoming a better steward. It's about becoming a better thinker. It's about becoming a better decision maker. It's about becoming the kind of person that God can trust with greater responsibility, right? So let's do a real quick review because we're a little bit over. Number one, your thinking determines your direction. So if you change your thinking, guess what? You change your direction, right? Number 2, we said personal growth increases your value. So the more valuable you become, the more opportunities you create. Number 3, your capacity determines your increase. So God often prepares us what? Before he promotes us. Number 4 was success is predictable because principle produces results. And financial success isn't magic. It's the results of consistently applying wise principles over time. Number 5 was personal growth changes what you build. Buying power is one thing, right? But building wealth and leaving a legacy is another. And finally, building a legacy of wisdom, not a legacy of debt. So let's become that generation that changes our family tree, y'all. You know, let's become that generation that teaches our children about stewardship. Let's become that generation that teach our children about saving and investing and giving and planning and honoring God with everything he entrusted to us. Because here's what I believe, that money can change your lifestyle, but wisdom can change generation. And that's what Faith and Finance Tuesday is all about, helping ordinary people make extraordinary financial decisions through biblical wisdom and practical financial education. So let me leave you with this one final challenge. This week, read one chapter of a good book. That's it. Read one chapter of a good book, listen to one financial podcast. You ain't got to do all of it, but just, I'm just randomly throwing some things out. Learn one new financial principle. Have one conversation about money with your family. And ask yourself one question every single day. What am I doing today that my future self will thank me for? And remember that every decision you make today, it creates the life you want to live tomorrow. Right? So again, y'all, if tonight has been a blessing to you, do me a favor, share this video with someone you care about. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another episode of Faith and Finance Tuesday. Every Tuesday night, we'll continue to grow together spiritually, personally, and financially. And remember, faith isn't just for Sunday. It belongs in every financial decision you make. Until next time, keep growing. Keep honoring God with everything he entrusted you. So that's all I got, y'all. This is Faith and Finance Tuesday, where biblical wisdom meets practical finances, and God bless you. And I'll see you all next Tuesday. All right, y'all. God bless. And Pastor AT, appreciate you for putting in all the notes. So if anybody need any notes and missed anything, Pastor AT always dropping it in the chat. He's always dropping it in the chat. So I didn't get to bring it over so you can see it. But Cousin Pam, thank you for joining. Devontae, appreciate you. Sister Angie, shout out to you. Charles, appreciate you. Who's Miss Love? Is that Miss Jones? Miss Jones, thank you for being with us tonight. Hey, y'all, I hope y'all got something out of this. So I'll catch you all next Tuesday. Until next time, peace.